this is the second video that I'm doing on my therianthropy experiences, and this one will be mainly about my awakening and how I found out my identity. I have a script down here, so that's why I keep looking down, then that's why. So I kind of forgot that therianthropy was a thing, and that therianthropy was existed until 2023. For a while after awakening, I wanted to try and get into therian spaces, but I was nervous that I wouldn't be properly accepted since I was so new to the community and quite undereducated at the time, that I thought that I wouldn't have a place and I'd have to explain my experiences and prove that I was a real therian in order to fit in with the other communities and people in it. Otherwise I'd be like, you're not a real therian, you don't experience it properly, go away, kind of thing. So I was a little bit nervous to try and fit in at the time, but now, obviously, as I've grown more comfortable in my identity, and now that I'm more educated and I'm more aware of myself, then now I completely know what my experiences are, and I'm explaining to them now, than feeling like I'm not a real therian, because to myself, I know that I am, and that's enough, because you don't need to prove your therianthropy to anyone. If it's real to you, and it's what you experienced, then that's all that matters. When I first awakened, I was very desperate to try and find out what my stereotypes were, since everyone in the community has a stereotype, and it kind of feels like if you don't have a stereotype, then you wouldn't be therian. But I didn't really know what animal that I was, so I kind of just identified with being an animal as a whole. I don't know if there's a specific term for just identifying as a therian, but with no specific stereotypes. It's not like I identified as every animal, like an omnitherian. It was more like I identified with no animal, but just saw myself as a vaguish mammal being of a nondescript type. I didn't really know what I was, but I was fine considering myself an animal. Again, not necessarily a bird or a fish or anything like that. I knew I was a mammal, but I didn't know what specifically. And I'm wondering if there's a term for that as well. Just being a therian, but with no specific stereotype and just feeling animalistic. At first I believed that I could have possibly been some kind of weasel or some kind of stoat or some kind of rodent like that, and well, I wouldn't have been entirely off, I guess. And then I thought, maybe I could be a fox or something, but then I also thought that didn't really fit me either. So I went back to thinking, well, I'm just an animal. I don't have to have any stereotypes. I could just be an animal, because that is enough to make me a therian, or at least what I believed at the time and still kind of do. So that was just how I identified, and I did feel kind of isolated from the community a little bit, because I couldn't do anything to connect with my stereotype, since I didn't know what it was, or if I even had one. But I just knew that I was a therian. Again, I don't know if that makes much sense. I then started to actually consider my experiences, which is something I should have done to begin with, but it took me a while to actually comprehend, oh wow, being a therian is based off of your experiences. And I realised, I'm kind of feline. Maybe I could be a snow leopard or puma or something along the lines of that. And that's kind of how I fell in. I thought I could have had a feline cladder stereotype, and yeah, I was quite comfortable having that term for a while, and I realised, there's a possibility that I'm also a canine in some form. Because as a child, I was raised by dogs quite a lot. Well, not raised by dogs, but I was always raised around dogs. My family's always owned dogs. I've always lived around a dog. And as a child, I would constantly try and mimic them. Like, I would always lie next to them and try and sit like them. I'd try and drink water like them. I'd even try their food sometimes. And I'd sit and beg, like, right next to them. Like, if they were sat down begging for food, then I would sit next to them. Like, I was also pretending to be a dog. And that made me think, then there's a good chance that I'm also a dog or some kind of canine. Because that would make sense, right? So then, knowing that I was a dog, or at least some form of canine, which now I believe it's more dog-like than any other kind of canine, I also started looking back on my feline identity, because I still knew that was a very big part of me. I mean, cats have always been a huge part of my life. I've always felt very drawn to them. I've always been more of a cat person than a dog person. And so I remembered a Pottermore quiz that I did when I was a child. And I'm not saying that doing quizzes like Pottermore is a good way to learn what stereotype you are. In fact, I don't really recommend it. But it kind of worked for me. I don't know. I remembered a Pottermore quiz I took to find out what my Patronus was. And I remember that it came up as a nebelung cat. So then, remembering that, I googled nebelung cat, and oh my goodness, it clicked. It really felt like I was looking at myself, like through a mirror, like I was looking at myself and myself was staring back. Like the feeling that many therianthropes have also described, it was such like a heartwarming experience to go, oh my goodness, that's me. And so I confirmed being a nebelung cat, and that is still my main stereotype today. In fact, this mask is based on a nebelung cat. I need to remake it at some point, which I'm actually planning to do quite soon. But I just don't know when I'll get around to it, since I'm quite busy at the moment. Finally finding out what my stereotypes were was such a comforting moment for me. I finally felt like I could stop feeling invalidated in the community, and I could finally be accepted, considering I'd have a stereotype now. I'd actually identify as something and be sure of what I identify as. I still don't really have much of an intention to really look into my canine identity, or at least my dog identity. Very much more recently, I've been slightly questioning a wolf. I don't know how that's going. I don't really think that I'm a wolf or have any connection to wolves. But sometimes I just kind of think, oh, maybe. But I don't really think that's going anywhere. But I'm definitely a dog. Which breed of dog? I have no clue. Nor do I really have any intention to find out. I'm fine with just knowing that I'm a dog and leaving it as that, because it's more of an insignificant part of my identity compared to being a cat. Cathood is, more important to me than doghood. Sorry, canines. And that's fine for me. I'm fine with not having to label every single aspect of myself and really just being. Also, somewhat more recently, I've also confirmed being rabbit-hearted, and I believe that's part of my persona-kin identity, which means that I kind of see myself as my persona. My persona is like my stereotype. It's me, but it's also not me at the same time. It's kind of confusing. I wish there were more things that existed to talk about persona-kin on the internet, because I can't really find anything. There's OC-kin, which I haven't really looked into, but I probably should. But yes, I'm also persona-kin, which is not something that I have. Oh my goodness, my hair swishes. Which I've not really spoken about much. But anyway, since one of my main personas is a rabbit, and I feel so deeply intertwined with her, like she is me and I'm her, and it's like a whole confusing kind of relationship we have between each other, then I'm connected to rabbits in the same way that I kind of consider them family. I'm very drawn to them, they're very dear to me, but I'm not a rabbit myself. I just see myself in a kind of family situation with one, if that makes any kind of sense. On another note, there are still some kin types that I'm questioning whether I am or not. Again, for my dog stereotype, sometimes I keep thinking that I might be a Bernese Mountain Dog, or I keep forgetting what the breed of dog that it's called that I'm also questioning, but I'm going to put it here somewhere. And for my felinehood, I have also questioned being a tiger. I don't know if you can tell. I really, really like tigers. I feel very drawn to them and very connected to them. And they are probably my favourite animal, which, again, does not mean that I'm specifically a tiger. But I don't think I'm a tiger because tigers are very territorial. They're very strong. They're very majestic. They're very proud. They're very, confident and big. And I know that I'm not that. Again, this is something I'll talk more in a later video about my current experiences instead of just my stereotypes. But I just feel like being a tiger doesn't fit me. So I'm still kind of on the cusp about it, because you don't need to share every single trait with your stereotype. Like, you can be a tiger that isn't confident. That's fine. So I'm still kind of at war with myself in terms of that identity, but I kind of hope to find out whether I am or not, because I'm constantly like, I don't know. Looking back at my notes, tigers also have quite a high prey drive. and certain methods that they hunt, they're very, out there and quite big predatory animals. And I'm on the cusp between whether I'm feral or domesticated. I can't really tell. I feel like it's somewhere in the middle, and it keeps fluctuating. But tigers are some very solitary creatures. They're very feral. They're definitely not domesticated. So if I'm part domesticated, I don't know how much that means I could consider myself a tiger or not. I don't know. That's all I wanted to talk about for now. I'll probably make another video to this some point. I can't promise when. I've been very busy recently, and I have exams coming up, mock exams coming up, and then I have the real exams coming up in the summer, which will probably change some things in this channel, but that's okay. I'll talk about it later. But for now, have a good time zone. Bye.